Welcome back to the Spectator's Perspective podcast. We're here to cover all things sports at Milliken, whether it comes to wins, losses, big changes, I guess. I guess the big change on campus or coming to campus is going to be the football and track locker room, which will be really cool. But we're here to just kind of track all of those things and just kind of keep everyone up to date with what's going on athletically on our campus. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Cebulski. I'm a broadcasting and communications major here at Milliken. I'm a senior, and my dream job is to become a voice actor for animation and video games.
And yeah, I'm the other host. I'm Kemper Kozlowski. I'm a sophomore here at Milliken. I'm actually an English journalism major, but in high school I did lots of broadcasting. I was fortunate to have an opportunity to do play-by-play and color commentate lots of games. So as I really pursue my career in journalism, I don't want to forget about broadcasting. Broadcasting itself would be really cool, but I think having my own show would be awesome. So this is a really great opportunity that we were presented, and we are extremely happy to be able to have this opportunity to talk sports because that's what we both love talking about. So
yeah. We're also
do.
both athletes on the track team. We didn't really cover that, but we both have our foot in the field for sure when it comes to being an athlete, and we both did multiple sports throughout high school. I did soccer, swim, and track, so I'll have a better understanding of those things. I don't know anything about football or baseball really at all. But what sports did you do?
So actually in the fall is pretty interesting. So the first 2 years of my fall career, I played soccer. I wasn't very good at it. I was just fast, which you'll learn happened with a lot of sports with me, which is why I stuck with track. But yeah, my freshman, sophomore year, I did soccer. My junior year, I did cross country, which I was not fast at, obviously, because I'm a sprinter on the track team, so long distance is not my forte. And that whole year was just a struggle. I was really figuring out what I wanted to do in the fall because obviously I knew I was going to do track in the spring, but finding a filler to keep me active and just to do in the fall was very difficult for me. So I tried out cross country for a year. I was not very good at it. I told the guys I was going to come back and run again, and then the football coach approached me about playing football, and a couple of my other buddies said they were going to give it a try as well. So I'm one of the guys who only played tackle football for 1 year. I played flag football for several years, actually, but tackle football was not my strong suit. Like I said, I was just fast, so I was on special teams a lot. But yeah, I really enjoyed football because I thought it was a unique perspective because you and your teammates are really putting your bodies on the line every single week in and week out at practice and in games. So that's really been a unique bond that's really stuck with me, especially watching our football team. I don't really understand what it's like here, but I understand the perspective of having a brotherhood because you're literally risking your personal safety for the person next to you. So it's a really good perspective there. And like I said, in the spring, it was always track. I actually started out more of a mid-distance runner. Right now, I do the 100 and the 200, and I complain if I have to do the 400. But my high school career, I started out running the 400 and the 800, and then COVID hit, and I didn't really do much of any workouts or anything, so I lost the little endurance that I did have. And I wasn't half bad at sprinting anyways, so I was fortunate to have a lot of success. In high school, I had a really good team around me. We were able to win our conference and play second at state. But yeah, track has always been my number one because, like I said, no matter what sport I played, even if I wasn't very good at it, if there was running involved, I managed because that's what I'm good at. So track has always been there, and I really hope that it always will be. So.
For me, I did soccer, swim, and track in high school. I did flag football very briefly in my life, and then I got tackled, and I hated it, and I quit after that. I was 8 years old, and you're told no one's going to hurt you, and then I got tackled in flag football. It was a traumatic experience for me. But anyway, I did soccer for about 11 years. I was a defender for 9 and then a goalkeeper for that's not math. I was a goalkeeper for 4 and a defensive player for the rest of the years. But I definitely kind of understand what you're talking about when it comes to putting your body on the line essentially for the sake of your teammates, for the sake of your game, whatever it is. I did soccer all through high school. I did swim for 2 years in high school, and I absolutely hated it. When you're working, if you haven't done a workout in a swimming pool, when you are pushing yourself, it feels like you're drowning. And when you're at track, and you feel like you're going to cramp, you just stop. But if you feel like you're going to cramp and you're in the water, you just sink.
Yeah.
So like if you just got to pray you're on the shallow end if you start to die out. But I did track I've done track since 6th grade. I'm not sure what year that is for me, but I took 3 years off because my first 3 years of college I went to Parkland College in Champaign. And then I decided to pick it back up again when I transferred here to Milliken. So I've been a pole vaulter that entire time. So yeah, that's just kind of just what I've done. And with pole vault still, you are definitely putting your body on the line quite
Absolutely.
often. I'm sure you've heard me scream for my life at practice before, or
I have.
watch me flail from 15 feet in the air onto a mat. But yeah, it's just kind of it's what you do, kind of thing. Yeah.
And that's why I love track too. Like every single day, it's just voluntary suffering. Like you always hear the joke, "Oh, your sport is other sports' punishment," but we don't always enjoy it. But there's some sense of accomplishment and gratitude that you have. Like you're thankful that you're able to get through the workouts, and then after you get through the workouts, you feel accomplished. Especially as D3 athletes too. Like this is with any sport that's played here at Milliken, any sport that's played on D3. Like you're not competing for scholarships. You're competing because you love to compete and you love the game, and you're not there for any other reason besides the fact that you love to compete. So as a D3 athlete, all of us athletes at this level have that unique perspective. Like there's nothing really much for us to gain except for the fact that we get to play the sport that we love and we get to compete with the teammates that we love as well. So being D3, it's definitely difficult at times because there are the times where you feel like you're putting all the work in, but you're not getting any recognition. But there's so much value in that because you really find out who you are as an individual. You really find out how you like to compete and how deep you're willing to dig in order to find that production that you're looking for when no one is watching. So having that perspective as a D3 athlete is definitely something that you can carry forward when sports end, because sports will come to an end. They always do. But the values and the ideas that you learn when you compete, especially at the D3 level, they'll always stick with you. So that's something I'm extremely grateful for.
I completely agree. I think that the difference between like Division 3 and Division 2 and 1 is that I think that like just the team aspect, like you're not competing with your teammates for a scholarship or for this amount of money or for like, you are still competing for titles, but I feel like there's much more of a, like, there's no reason not to encourage your teammates when it comes to being in competition. At a D3 level, I think that a lot of people, I feel like we're like cast aside a lot because it's like, oh, we're just like doing it because we want to do it and we're not making any money for it or anything like that. But I think like if you look at like the statistics of how many people actually make it to do sports in college that really want to, like I think we're in like I think it's like less than 10% of athletes go on to compete at a college level that like want to and actively pursue doing that. And so like it is just such an incredible privilege just to be able to just continue to be able to do that. And I mean, of course, I'd love more scholarship money, but ultimately, I don't want my scholarship to be like dependent on my performance.
Yeah.
Like if I know like with some Division 1 schools, it's like if you place in conference or at their sectional or whatever it is, like you are guaranteed this amount of money. But if you don't make that mark, you can have that money taken away from you, kind of thing. And that's just a level of stress like in a sport that I don't want to have to deal with. Just because like I love being a pole vaulter, but just like it's already like a stressful enough event in itself. And the last thing I want to think about is like, well, like if I mess this up, I might like break my leg or give myself a concussion. But if I just like have an off day or something, that could be potentially like thousands of dollars out the window.
Absolutely. It's definitely a unique opportunity that you have because you're struggling alongside your teammates who are also fighting for the same thing. But what is that same thing? It's not money. It's not always glory. It's just you're fighting for something that's bigger than yourself, especially as a track team. Like we have around like 100 people on our track team. So you're fighting for those other 90 or so people so that we can score points at conference, score points at a meet, and potentially win. And there's not always going to be glory in that, and there's not always going to be big media coverage with that. But at the D3 level, that's what it is. You're just competing because you love to compete, and that's that's such a great thing, and I'm so glad that we have the opportunity to compete at the D3 level.
I also think that it's really important to like put aside the like Michael Jordan level status, the Usain Bolt level of status of like you have to be like you're a nobody unless you're this good or you're on the cover of Nike or whatever it is. Like I think that D3 does a really good job of showing what it means to be like an elite athlete kind of thing. Because when people think elite, you think of like, you know, the best person in whatever sport, but like that's obviously not an attainable thing for 99% of people. So I think that in a way that can almost be like discouraging to those people that are like, okay, I'm putting in this many hours, but why can't I be like this? I think that it's a great way to shift the perspective of, okay, even though I might not be on the same level as Mondo Duplantis, who has the world record for pole vault and has been doing it since he was 7 years old, like I can, like it's okay for me and it's healthy for me to set different goals because I'm a different person than they are.
Yeah, you just go out and compete with yourself every day. You're not really trying to attain what someone else did. You're trying to become the best version of yourself, and there's so much value in that. Competing against yourself, running your own race. For example, when I'm in the blocks, like I try not to think that there's even other people that I'm racing against. I think it's just me versus me, and that's the mentality that's extremely difficult to have, but there's so much value in it because if you try and compare yourself to other people, you're just not going to be happy. And even if you're beating them, you're not going to be happy, I don't think. You just have to really learn how to have that perspective of I'm running my own race against myself and I'm competing against my times. Like something I always said last year, like I would look at my PRs and be like, well, this guy's slow. Why can't I beat him?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I run a better time than him? And the only person you really need to compare yourself to is yourself. Because like I said, if you start comparing yourself to others, you're going to lose focus on what you're doing. You're going to take a false step because you're worried about the step that someone else is taking. So it's really applicable with any sport. Like if you're playing baseball and your teammate has a really good game, but you don't have a good game, and you're focused on how bad your game was, you're not going to be able to be there for your teammate when they have that good game. And that's going to discourage them from being there for you when you have a good game as well. So if you really just compete against yourself and not really worry about what else everyone else is doing, you're going to be a lot less stressed out. You're going to have better performances because of that lack of stress, and it's really just going to free you up. And free athletes play better. That's something I've always been taught, and that's something I will always hold close to me as I continue to compete as well.
Well, I agree. I feel like whenever I found myself like chasing after that one person, I felt like even though I would eventually like get better, I feel like it was helpful to push me. I was doing it in an unhealthy way. And I also like in the times I would ultimately get to those points, like you beat that person, you get that mark, whatever it is, and you're just like, okay, what do I do now?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. Like you do it like I feel like you almost do it just for that brief moment of like, wow, I finally did this and I worked for this, but then it's just kind of like, okay, what do I do now?
Who do I catch next?
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a never-ending cycle if you get into that mode of, if I catch this one person, well, then I'm good enough to do that. Now I'm going to have to catch another person, and it's just never going to end, and you're never going to be satisfied. And eventually, like I said, sports will stop, and if you are obsessing over catching one person and your sport career ends before you do that, you're just going to live with regrets. But like I said, if you compete against yourself and just focus on making yourself better every day, you can't have regrets. It's not possible unless you give up. But if you don't give up, then and you just give everything you have, then that's all you need to do in order to beat your own goals, to get those goals that you're going for. All right, so we're going to start off with our sports recap. We're going to start off with the cross-country team. Like we said, we run track, so we're obviously not on the cross-country team, but come springtime, they will be a part of our team, obviously. So yeah, we see these guys work out every day. They do just as much work, if not more than everybody. It's crazy the stuff they do. I have so much respect for the cross-country team. It's insane. So they opened their season up at Indicator. They ran at the old Scoville golf course, not currently a golf course, but they kind of mowed out a path out there, and that's where they competed last weekend. They won that. It's the H.W. Wright Classic. The Big Blue men's team had the top 7 finishers, led by Braden Olmstead. The women's team had the top 3 finishers, and the men's team won with a final score of 15 Millikan, Illinois Wesleyan 60, and Illinois College 69. And like I said, they won, so obviously the lower the amount of points, that you score, the better of a finish you're going to have. Because I actually just looked this up. I wasn't really sure how this worked, but it's basically whatever spot you finish in, that's how many points you get, and that's how they ended up with those 15 points, it looked like. So they had a really good start to their year. They're going to go to, I believe it's Wheaton this weekend, right? So yeah, they'll look to continue their season there. But like I said, these teams do. I've never seen anyone do as much work as they do. For example, like we'll be going to church on Sundays, and they'll be getting there late, and they'll be like, "Well, we just ran 16 miles. We had to get that in before church," and it's just insane the amount of work that they do day in and day out. They're waking up at sometimes like 4:30, 5 a.m.
in the morning, and
got to get 10 miles in before school, and then just go about your day like nothing happened. It's insane to me. Like I said, I'm a sprinter. I did cross country in high school, but the most I ever ran, I think, in any given day was about 5 miles. And I talked to Olmstead last week, and he said he did, I think it was 18 miles in one day, and he did it in one sitting. It's not like he's splitting it up or anything. If you know where Fort Daniels is around here, it's like Dalton City. He ran from there to campus, which is insane to me because that's like a 20-minute car ride in and of itself. So running 18 miles is, I don't think, something I'm ever going to do. I hope it's never something I do.
Yeah, I did cross country for 3 years in junior high, and the most I think I ever did in one sitting was 4 miles, and I wanted to just keel over and curl up and just let whatever it was just take me. I was ready to be done, so I could not imagine. Well, I'm also not a morning person. I hate getting up in the morning. So for these guys and girls to get up at like 4:30 in the morning to go drive 20 minutes somewhere before the sun is even up and start practicing before the majority of the world has woken up and started doing things is absolutely crazy to me. But I have nothing but absolute respect for everyone that is willing to put themselves through that for the sake of their team.
Yeah, and the cross country team had a pretty solid year last year. I don't remember exactly what they placed at conference, but they did have a few individual like really solid performances. For example, Braden Olmstead last year, obviously he was a national qualifier. I believe it was the first national qualifier in like 10 years
for cross country.
Yeah, for the cross country team. So he went to Michigan in the snow to compete in a cross country race, and I don't even like sprinting in the snow, let alone running a 5K or whatever the race is. But it's just crazy to me the amount of suffering that they go through, and they don't do it for them. They do it for their team. They do it because they love the guys running next to them, and they do it because of that bond that they share. It's an insane thing to me. The amount of like team strength that this team has. It's a really unique thing on this campus because obviously practices get hard, they get difficult, but how difficult are you willing to push your limits to? How far are you willing to go? And they really answer that question day in and day out.
Yeah.
They push themselves to somewhere they haven't been like every week. It's insane to me.
Just in sports in general, but I would say very much so for cross country, they like truly embody the mentality of pain is inevitable, but suffering doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to getting up super early, running, miles upon miles upon miles. I just cannot fathom how when they warm up for races, they'll run a longer length than the actual race itself and then go run the race.
Yep.
And they do it because they love the people on their left and their right.
And then they'll do it again after the race too.
Yeah.
They'll go run the cool down, and we'll be waiting on the bus for them because they got 3 miles or something like that after the race, and they ended up running like a mile, a 1,500 or something like that. But I can't imagine doing it, but I have so much respect for the people that do. So they're definitely a vital part of our track team, and obviously a vital part of the sports here at campus. Because at cross country meets, you don't always have the most people, but they're probably the team that does the most work. They're doing all the work for probably the smallest amount, of the glory. But because of that team bond that they have and that mentality that they have to just get better every single day, they put their bodies on the line like football, but just in a different way for cross country. They put their bodies on the line every single day so that they can just improve themselves. And it's really a mental thing too. Like running, I always ask them. I say, do you ever get bored when you're running? And they say, oh, all the time. But you just gotta push through, put the next foot down, and just keep putting the next foot down. That's really the best way I can explain it. So, yeah, they opened up their season in a really good way, and really hoping to build off of last year too. Like last year they had a really good year, but this year they have a bunch of good freshmen coming in as well. So it'll really be interesting to see how they like get acclimated because the top 6 finishers, 2 of those were freshmen for the cross country team. So that's going to be really fun to watch them as they grow in their first year of college. Because obviously, like I said, making the jump from cross country from high school to college is a huge jump. So I'm really excited to watch how that progresses as the year goes on.
Alrighty, we're going to be covering the soccer teams next. Both teams have had a lot of success so far to start off their not only school year but also their athletic career so far. First off, we're going to be diving into the women's team. Most recently, the girls have played on September 13th against Illinois College. I think the score was 4-2, and the first goal that was scored was by Bailey Bleeker. The second goal was scored by Ellie Hemerson. The third goal was scored by Milas Brugtu. And the last goal was scored by Haley Schaffman.
Yeah, and I really have liked what this team has done to start off with the year. They did drop their last 2 games before the Illinois College game, but I really want to highlight the game that they had against Monmouth College. I was at this game, and it was very interesting because you could just see the spirit kind of come out of Monmouth as the game went on. It was very interesting to watch. Like, for example, at the end of the first half, you had the keeper yelling at her teammates. You had a couple of the strikers, like, yelling, like, verbally, "Nobody is open, please get open." And it was just very interesting to watch because this game was really over before it started. The team came out in full force, the Big Blue did, and they really did not let up. And it was, as a Milliken fan, it was really fun to watch, obviously, but it was just very stressful to verbally hear teammates yelling at each other because of how poorly the game was going. But I talked to Erin Fleischer after this game. She scored her first goal, her first college goal, I should say. Last year and the majority of the years before that, she was on the defensive side of the ball. So this year she's on the offensive side of the ball, and she was able to score her first goal. She said it was just really a cool experience. Obviously, it would be cool scoring her first college goal, but especially for her transitioning from defense to offense. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I played defense a lot, and then as I got moved into high school, I started playing striker a lot more. And scoring those goals and preventing those goals is obviously a very different feeling. Both are just as valuable because you can't win without either, but it's just really a different experience being able to see the ball go into the net and realizing, like, hey, I was on defense last year. Why can't I make the transition and be able to score goals this year as well? So I thought that was a really cool part of this game. But yeah, this game was never really close. Obviously they won 8-0. Then they improved to 2-0 on the season at that point. But yeah, they've had a lot of success this year. They've definitely had a lot of growth as a team. Like, for example, last year there were quite a few freshmen playing on the team, getting varsity minutes, and obviously now they're sophomores. So as that group starts to get older, they're going to have a lot more experience under their belt. They're not just going to be talented, but they're going to be weathered as well. So that's going to be really fun to watch. They should be pretty solid the rest of this year, like I said, as they are getting more acclimated to college athletics. And it's really the same with any sport too. Like, we had a giant freshman class for our track team.
Yeah.
There was a giant freshman class for the baseball team too last year. And as the years are going to go on, you're going to see those younger guys really get involved, and especially because they got involved within their first year. So they're going to have some really solid careers, especially on the women's soccer team. So I'm definitely excited to keep watching that.
To move on to their Illinois College game, when I'm just looking at the stats here when it comes to goals, shots on goals, saves, corners, and overall fouls, like, it really just looks like the women's team is just very good at, like, playing a team that they should be equal against and then just slowly and surely just outworking them, if that makes sense. Like, I know that the first 2 goals were scored within the first 3 minutes of the game, but the next 2 goals were scored in the second half. And that was after Illinois College had come back and tied the game, I believe. But when I look at, like, shots on goal, Illinois College total had 4 shots on goal, Milliken total 10 shots on goal. Like, that just shows the disparity between, like, the levels of offense between the team. And we also look at saves. Milliken was taking more shots on goal than Illinois College, so they had more saves than Milliken. But our goalkeeper was, I mean, it looked like she was 50-50 for her saves with 2 saves and then 2 goals, which is, as a goalkeeper, like statistically, that's really good. We had 4 goals and they had 4 saves, so their goalkeeper was also 50-50. I think that's just a good thing to just look at is, like, a lot of times we like to look at the end result of like, oh, this team's better than this team and here's why. But I think that as you look at the stats and also being there and watching the game, you can truly see like how hard you actually have to work to put yourself ahead of another team. And with a game like soccer, like one bad mistake and you can let a goal in regardless of how good your team actually is. So I think that the level of consistency that's shown through the statistics shows how hard our girls team is working.
Absolutely. And their next game is on Sunday. They'll be traveling to Dubuque to take on Loras College. So after that, let's talk about the elephant in the room here, the men's soccer team. They've gotten onto a really hot start after dropping their first game. They're now 3-1-1, and that's, I believe, 3 more wins than they had all of last year.
I believe within the last 2 years.
Yeah, so they are making leaps and bounds. At the game against DePaul, I heard it was in the last 11 seconds they scored the game-winning goal. So
nice.
They're really being tested right now. They're playing solid competition, but they're pulling through. For example, Illinois College, they won by 1 goal. DePaul, like I said, they won by 1 goal, and Blackburn, they won by 6 goals. So the games that they have won have been close, and being able to win those close games, those close finishes, is so valuable to a team. It can't be understated. So, yeah, after dropping their first, they're now 3-1, and they're ranked regionally. They're ranked 7th in the region, I believe it was. Yeah, 7th. And, it's the first time they've been ranked since 2016. They got recognized by the United Soccer Coaches Union. So, yeah, they're 7th in the region, and that's the first time in 7 years that's happened.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool. So they will play Wash U next on Saturday at home. So if you're in town, be sure to be at that one because, like I said, they've had a lot of success this year, so you're not going to want to miss being able to watch them when they're at home. All right, so now we are going to talk about my favorite and my least favorite sport, golf. Golf is one of those sports that really gets you. If you've ever played it before, you know that it's probably the happiest you've ever been while playing a sport, and it's the most mad you've ever been while playing a sport. It is a tale of two emotions there, and they come in waves, and when they approach your mind, they are there like instantly, and they come with force as well. So we're gonna start off with the men's golf team. They took 7th in the Carthage Fall Classic on Tuesday. Sophomore Noah Martin and freshman Dominic Emig led the way for the Big Blue, each posting a 147 through 2 rounds, which is really solid. Like I was kind of talking about earlier, that's a sophomore and freshman leading the team.
Mm-hmm.
So as they continue to get older, they're just going to get more experienced. And golf is really a mental sport too. Like obviously they've been playing it for a majority of their lives. I'm assuming if you're really good at golf, you likely did not just get good at golf all of a sudden. But yeah, so as they continue to get older, they're going to have a lot more experience as well. And Luke Bradley, he finished 21st overall, shooting a 148 or 1 stroke behind his teammates. His teammates play 17th at the Classic. And the men's golf team is back in action Friday, September 22nd, when they travel to Wisconsin to compete in the Midwest Region Classic. And now for the women's golf team. The women's golf team, they placed 5th at the CCIW preview on Wednesday, and they were led by Maddie Jessen in scoring, and she posted an 87 through 18 holes. That is really solid, and that is extremely difficult to do. I'd like to say that I'm a golfer. I play golf, but I'm not very good at it. I spend most of the time being upset with myself. But just being able to shoot under 90 in general is just impressive in general. I think that's definitely it's one of the most mentally challenging sports, golf. It really gets to you. Like it takes one bad shot to have 3 bad shots. Like you could be having a really solid hole and then all of a sudden one shot just derails that and derails your entire round. And I've definitely been victim of that before. So really solid performances by both of the men's golf team and the women's golf team. And the women's golf team, they return into action on Saturday when they will compete in the Highland Classic and Rock Island. All right, now we're going to focus on the men and women's tennis teams. We'll start it off with the men's tennis team. They competed in the fall CCIW invite last weekend, where junior Cole Phillips placed second overall. Really solid showing from Phillips there. And in the doubles bracket, Phillips and junior Theodore Wolf defeated a Wesleyan pairing to place seventh in the first flight. Matthew Kordesh and Esteban Duran placed sixth in the third flight. And this team will be back in action on September 16th when they compete at the DePaul Men's Invite. Now, women's tennis. The women's tennis team had a hard-fought tournament where they traveled to Rock Island to compete against Augustana in their first CCIW matchup. Although they did fall 9-0, there were several positive takeaways from the matches. For example, they kept them close a couple times, and they forced a couple tiebreakers also, and they simply refused to go down without a fight. And their next match will be at Fairview, actually, on September 19th against Illinois Wesleyan. So if you got nothing going on that day, be sure to go out to Fairview and just support them, spend some time in the nice weather. We've had some really nice fall weather recently, so the conditions should be really nice to view that match.
Alrighty, and last but not least within the sports section is the women's volleyball team. They're starting off their season with being 4-3. They've actually already had a fair amount of games after traveling all the way to New York a couple weeks ago to have their first major tournament. As of right now, they're sitting in a fairly good standing in the conference after recently taking on Elmhurst at home.
Yeah, so Elmhurst was past tense, the CCIW leader or co-leader in the conference until Millikan knocked him out in 4 sets. It was a very solid game. So in the first set, they started off with a 6-2 run, and they ended up winning that set by, I believe it was 4 or 5.
I believe so.
Yeah, it was a really solid set there because it's a lot easier to compete when you're up by 8 or 9. But when you got these close games, every point matters, obviously, and they were able to come out on top on that one. So on the second set, Elmhurst did win that one. They were down, Millikan was down 10-7, and they called a timeout. And they called another timeout when they were down 19-23. They did cut the lead to about 3 or 4, but they weren't able to secure this set. But once again, it was just a very hard fought set, And instead of just going down without a fight, they did keep it close, which was really solid to see. And then they came out and exploded on the third set. They were up 13-9. Elmhurst was forced to call a timeout, and after that, they went on a 5-2 run to make it 18-11. And at that point, the set was pretty much out of reach. And they scored the last 7 and ended up winning 25-11. So they scored 7 unanswered coming out of that timeout. And the fourth set, they opened it on a 7-3 run, forcing another timeout, and they ended up winning it from there. So there were several really nice individual performances. I really just want to highlight here, Kaylee Itzenhauser had an incredible game. She finished with 13 kills, and she had 7 kills in the first set, which really just set the tone for that match. It really allowed Millikan to play with the lead, even though the second set was tied after that. They came out, and like I said, they had a fantastic third set, and they were really just in cruise control from there. They were just really in control of this thing from the get-go, and they put their foot on the gas, and they just didn't let Elmhurst really have a chance to ever come back. So it was just a really fun game to watch, really solid performance. There was a nice crowd, which is always good to see, and it was just really good to see the Millikan community come in and get involved and really come together to come support each other through sports, which I really enjoyed watching.
Yeah, I mean, we were both there at the game, and
yeah,
I'll be honest, track was definitely representing more than any other group there, and it was just so much fun to just see these people that you walk around on campus with that you don't really get an opportunity to know super well, and then you get to see them do what they love to do and do it in front of whoever's watching. I will say that the game was, it was just incredibly fun to watch. Right before this, I didn't know that Elmhurst was leading the conference, and based on the way of watching the game, I had no idea that they were leading, just with the way that the girls came out and just dominated the game.
Absolutely.
After the first set, I was kind of like, yep, all right, it's gonna be one of those games, and it ended up being almost exactly the way I thought it was. But yeah, I can't wait for more volleyball home games because I think that girls volleyball and women's basketball get the most hype around them, and that it is very much so deserved.
Absolutely. So like we've been talking about, all these sports events coming on campus, really be sure to go support your athletic teams because like we've talked about, they're not competing for scholarships. They're often really not competing for fandom because there's not always a whole lot of coverage on these teams. So they're really competing for themselves and for each other. So I cannot understate the importance of going to support your athletic teams, especially on a Division III campus. And the volleyball team, like I said, they're back in action on September 15th when they go to Kentucky. So that's today, actually. They will go to Kentucky to face Birmingham Southern College. So they've really been all around the country so far.
Yeah, they've been all over. They've been all over.
Yeah, they like Corey said, they went to New York for a couple matches, had a pretty solid showing up there, and now they're going to Kentucky to face Birmingham Southern College. So we will be excited to see what the result of that is. And that will wrap up this episode. We do appreciate you listening to this. If you see us on campus, make sure to stop and say hi. Give us any ideas, any feedback that you may have about how this episode went, and something maybe that you'd like to see in the future. So, yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it.
And we will see you next time. And you can find this episode on your Decatarian newsletter, which should come out on Friday. Thank you. This has been the Spectator's Perspective, and we will see you next time.